bit is concerned and alarmed about these two executive orders, and I hope the administration rethinks those very, very rapidly. But I tell you what, I'm concerned about something else this administration is doing. I've been watching Washington for 31 years running a manufacturing plant, and from my standpoint, this place is pretty broken. Our budget process is broken. Evidence of that is the fact that we haven't passed a budget in the Senate for 756 days now. And it seems like this administration is assuming that they're just going to automatically get an increase in the debt ceiling. I think that's a very irresponsible assumption. Monday, I went to the floor of the Senate and asked this administration to start laying in a contingency plan, just in case. I think it's a responsible thing to do, and I guess Secretary Geithner this morning said that their plan is for the Congress to pass a debt limit, their fallback plan is for Congress to pass a debt limit, and their fallback plan is for Congress to pass a debt limit. Again, that's a very irresponsible assumption. So I think, today what I'll be doing is I'll be sending a letter formally asking this administration to develop some contingency plans just in case the debt ceiling isn't increased. And I guess I want to start out, my questioning with members from OMB here. Is there any plans underfoot at all to start prioritizing essential service spending just in case the debt ceiling doesn't get increased?
Senator Johnson, I appreciate the importance of the question. It's not an area in which I feel comfortable responding.
Having been in government a while, have you ever, this isn't the first time we've ever started coming up against these deadlines. Has there ever been any kind of contingency plan developed in terms of prioritizing essential spending within the agencies, just in case?
I can tell you that it's just not a question for the administrator of federal procurement policy to answer.
Within OMB, who would be the person I'd be calling to find out?
We're happy to relay the question back to our colleagues within the Office of Management and Budget.
Okay. Well, Mr. Darrell, let me ask you in terms of GAO's efforts and something like that. Have you ever seen that type of prioritization just in case?
No, I'm not aware of that outside of the Secretary of Treasury's extraordinary authority to take measures so that the debt ceiling isn't broached.
If we were to, obviously you're a creature of Congress here, as is CBO. Would those be the two agencies that would try and develop those types of plans just in case? I mean, how would you work with CBO to figure out if this happens? I mean, from my standpoint, if we do not get a debt ceiling increase, we'll be looking at operating under about a $2.6 trillion, I guess I'd call it a debt ceiling budget. And that's what this administration has estimated revenue will be in 2012. Is there any effort, or how would we go about prioritizing spending under that type of scenario?
Well, that would be basically a policy decision by the Congress and by the administration to take. I mean, there's really not an analytical answer to that question. It's really a policy matter. And we've pointed out in legal decisions that the Secretary of Treasury has the authority to broad discretion to be able to do that.
One of the reasons I raised it in this hearing is you've laid out a list of duplicated programs here. Within that list, have you prioritized, and I know you've said that it's been difficult to figure out how effective they are, but still, have you at all prioritized the effectiveness of those programs?
We've listed out which programs have been had evaluations and have been proven to be effective and which ones have not had any evaluations at all. For example, in the domestic food assistance area, there are 18 different programs. 7 of those programs, including food stamps and the women's and infants children's area, have had performance evaluations and have proven to be effective in stemming hunger and achieving the objectives, but 11 of the 18 programs have not been evaluated, and there's limited information available. In the employment and training area, of the 47 programs, only 5 have had evaluations, an impact of the program since 2004. So there's very limited information available on those programs that makes it hard to make decisions. As I testified before you and other members of the 2 subcommittees on the Government Performance and Results Act modernization, hopefully that requirement for OMB and the agencies to produce performance measures will yield better outcomes in the future. But right now you have a really mixed hand that you're having to deal with.
So what would be the most effective and efficient way to get the agencies to start actually taking a look at this? Because again, I'm just highly concerned that if nobody's looking at this now, we will be in a crisis if we don't increase that debt ceiling, and we could potentially avoid that if we plan.
Right. My suggestion would be is to use the administration proposals already for consolidation of the programs as a starting point for discussions, and really ask tough questions about what is known about programs that don't have empirical evaluations and evidence, and what are the options for covering those services under broader programs so you reduce administrative costs.
But again, that'd be relying on the administration, correct?
Well, no. I mean, Congress would have the ultimate decision. In the 81 areas that we've outlined in our report, well over a third of them will require legislative action to implement. The administration could not implement them alone. I'm just saying, to address your question, where do you start, I think that'd be a helpful place, but I think the Congress ought to start by asking hard questions where there haven't been evaluations and a lot of money's being spent, more is proposed to be spent. Is it really worth the risk?
I mean, should potentially this committee issue a letter to GAO, possibly CBO, to start that process of prioritizing? Again, just in case, would that be helpful?
Well, again, I think that those decisions have to come from the Congress and the administration. I mean, they're basically policy calls. You know, we can tell you what's known about the existing portfolio of programs to help you make those decisions, but it's really not our role to make those priority decisions.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm new here, but again, I would suggest that potentially this committee issue a letter to these agencies and ask them and request them to prioritize essential services just in case this debt ceiling doesn't get increased, so that we can avoid a crisis in case that happens. So thank you.
Thanks, Senator Johnson. I'll be glad to work with you on that. There's two parts to this. I don't want to take really more time on it, but the other part is, one part is if the debt ceiling isn't increased, which I think most people think it ultimately will, what kind of budget will we have based on projected revenues for next year? And then the other is, how do we make sure we don't default on existing debt? And of course, that's a question of prioritizing how you spend the $2.6 trillion in revenue. And presumably, one of the priorities for that spending would be to make payments on existing debt so as to not to raise any questions about the full faith and credit of the United States. Yes, sure.
I mean, and again, I'm not recommending this. I hope it doesn't happen, but if we are faced with what I'd call the debt ceiling budget of $2.6 trillion, we would be able to pay for all the interest on the debt, which is about $256 billion. We pay for all Social Security, which would be about $760 billion, and that would still leave $1.6 trillion for essential defense, security, health, and safety. And that budget itself would be over $800 billion larger than we were spending just 10 years ago under Bill Clinton's last budget. So again, I'm concerned that we're trying to fearmonger here. We're trying to scare the American public, and if we plan for this, it wouldn't be pleasant, but it would not have to be a crisis if we plan.
The one thing, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Senator Johnson, the one other factor that just occurred to me, I mean, in many programs that are entitlement programs, like the Medicare program, for example, I mean, the law dictates that money be spent to pay those services, so the law would have to be changed in order to deal with some of those situations, you know, other than the discretionary part of the budget.
It's a good point. Senator McCain.